So nihilism is often a common thing in non-duality, but I always have the feeling that if you become nihilistic, you had a tendency to be nihilistic prior to getting into non-duality. Like, some people blame it on non-duality, but now after working with people for many years, I think that there has always been that tendency. If you've inherently been a positive, happy person, then you won't hear the nihilism in non-duality. But if you've got that tendency towards life is pointless, it's hopeless, and you've always been doing things out of a future goal, out of doing it because you wanted to be successful, or you wanted to be famous, or you wanted to have lots of things, or because you wanted to be better than your neighbors, because you wanted to prove your parents wrong. If you've done things out of that, then I think you're susceptible to nihilism, because then when you question your seeking, you see that all your seeking was based on the wrong things. If you were generally a more happy person, then you won't have been seeking so hard. You won't have had so many motivations to be better than what you are, although success and wealth might have come, because I think that it's got nothing to do with your efforts really towards it. But if you've had that tendency to be a really strong seeker and to be afraid of the meaning of life, because that's another thing that can keep seeking going, is that you're afraid there is no meaning of life. You're afraid of life. And so you seek really hard. You seek for a lot of things because you're afraid they are meaningless. So you're always trying to put meaning into them. So then when you begin to wake up and get into this subject, then the thoughts begin to come up. It's pointless, it's meaningless. And that has got nothing to do with non-duality. Life is inherently meaningless, like nothing has meaning, but not in the way nihilism thinks. I'm saying that this wall is something that we as humans have named and called a wall, and we've called it a white wall. And that's not inherently what it is. It isn't an inherently white wall. We've named it that, to the dog, to the cat, to the sky. That's not a white wall. That's mystery. That's not a name. But we named it that. That's what I'm saying. Everything is meaningless. It has no inherent meaning. There's nothing that has meaning. Everything, and that includes everything, the idea that you've got to be successful. We made up all the premises, all the games. We made up what's successful. We made it up. If we'd made up that being successful was being really poor, then that would be what successful is. But it's not, because it ties in with our survival. We've made up it's really rich and having all these things and looking a certain way. But we've named all these things and we play this game and then we believe in it. And there's nothing to believe in. It's something that we're all imagining together. We're all imagining this world that doesn't inherently exist because nothing has any meaning. So when it said life is meaningless, that's got nothing to do with motivation. It affects your motivation because most people have been living their lives in the dream, believing that one day they're going to make it in the dream, and they're always trying to get to somewhere in the dream. So then when that's challenged, then you as a person begin to lose your mojo, your motivation. But that's got nothing to do with a non-duality saying everything is meaningless. This doesn't mean cup. But the person then gets into a depressive funk because they're not got this story that gives them highs, that's like, if I have a really nice house that's better than my neighbor, I'm better than my neighbor, showing off to your parents, or whatever it is. Coming across like you're a saint, you're really rich, you're really successful, you got great kids, whatever it is. What was I saying again? That's when that's challenged, of course, the body's then not going to know what to do and maybe even feel depressed. That's because it was there already. You were already using the seeking game to cover that up. It's just that that's been called out and now you're like, ooh, naked. This is a dangerous place to be, but it's got nothing to do with non-duality. It's always a dangerous place to be depressive. It's very difficult having big depressions, having no mojo. I mean, the enlightenment story can be very exciting to people in the beginning. Then after a couple of years, they begin to get depressed with that, because it's they were attached to the story of enlightened, that you become enlightened, and then they begin to realize that they're not going to become enlightened, and they can't show off to all their friends, and they can't sit there as a teacher and be better than other people. And as all those dreams fade, then it's like, when you don't get enlightened, then it's like, well, what's the point? If I can't have hundreds of women or hundreds of men or Chippendales or strutting along my front room, what's the point? If I can't walk through walls or have magical powers, what's the point? When you begin to realize there's nothing in it for you, but then maybe something else can be heard, that there's a freedom beyond all of that, beyond having and not having. And that's the point to non-duality. It's got nothing to do with you, but it's here. And it's this love, it's this home, it's this freedom that is here. Nihilism and the depression is yours, belongs to you. And it was there in the seeking world. It's just that you were so focused on the seeking that you didn't really feel it, because you were focused on getting, on receiving, on making it, on doing it, and you had all these other chemicals. But as you strip that away, you begin to realize there is that depressive energy there. And that depressive energy formed from a young age, when you began to cut off from life, when you began to cut off from your essence. And you began to believe the lie that one day you'll make it in time. One day you'll arrive. If you do all these things, you'll arrive. And so you spend all these years not really appreciating what you're doing, but always trying to arrive, always waiting for a future moment. And then after years and years of doing that, your life becomes dead. You feel dead because you've never been living for the taste of the coffee, or the smell of the freshly cut grass, or the sunlight, or whatever's happening right now. You've been living for this moment in the future, and of course that's going to make you feel bad. And years of doing that are producing all these negative chemicals in your body that's telling you this moment isn't enough, this moment isn't enough, this isn't enough. That's never actually appreciating who you are, which is everything in this moment. It's saying you're not enough, I've got to get to something better than this. So of course there's going to be that depressive energy underneath it. But it's got nothing to do with non-duality, it's to do with the person. So it's not non-duality that's nihilistic or depressive. It's the person's false beliefs.